everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com, and I, for one, did not see that coming. That's right, we have just watched WWE SummerSlam 2020, and if you haven't seen it, or you just want to catch up on what's happened because you also just did not see any of that coming, then I'm going to run through all of it for you as we find out what happened at SummerSlam 2020. Didn't even see it. So crazy. Yes, there were lots of different things to talk about at SummerSlam. Title changes, a shock return, storylines popping off all over the place. So we're going to break it down for you now. But first, let's talk about the one pre-show match. That's right, Apollo Crews versus MVP for the United States title was, unfortunately for those guys, bumped to the pre-show. It's a bit sad for Apollo. He's been working really hard in this US title reign, and it was a little bit of a shame. I bet he didn't see it coming. Oh. The story of the match was basically that Apollo is way more fast and athletic than MVP, but MVP's got those veteran instincts and knows how to take advantage of a situation. And it was quite back and forth. It was pretty even, with Apollo never truly being able to break away and establish a lot of momentum for himself. There was a double count out tease on the outside before both men made it back in, as if it was New Japan Pro Wrestling or something. And then MVP got the advantage, went for the playmaker, but Apollo blocked it and hit the toss powerbomb to retain his title. Now on to the main card, and we start with one of Asuka's two title shots. This one for the SmackDown Women's Championship against Bayley. And Asuka starts the match fiercely, just running through her offense, battering Bayley to and fro, and really establishing her dominance early on. And we see quite a lot of that in various different matches across the card. Hot starts from one competitor or the other before the other one has to work their way back into it. I wonder why that was a theme, I don't really know. Sasha looks really scared on the outside, and she did a great job throughout this match of really selling the emotion, knowing that she has to face Asuka later on for her Raw Women's Championship. But Bayley manages to fight back and nails the belly to Bayley. 1-2. And of course, Asuka kicks out because it's not Bayley's proper finisher anymore, is it? But Bayley still looks shocked. She didn't see it. I'm going to stop doing that. Bayley then starts to focus on one of Asuka's legs, really working the leg, and commentary do a good job of mentioning that this could really come into play later on in that match against Sasha Banks, as well as just general fatigue. And then both women trade a top rope move countered into a submission, with Bayley catching Asuka in some kind of calf crusher, but Asuka makes the ropes. Then Bayley goes for the elbow drop, but Asuka catches her in an armbar. While Bayley is caught in the submission, Sasha gets involved from the outside. Asuka has to break the hold to get a bit of revenge on Sasha and boot her away, or kind of kick her off. Sasha then gets on the apron. Asuka runs, hits the ropes, and goes for her hip attack. And Sasha just takes the bullet and falls to the outside of the ring. This disorientates Asuka. She doesn't quite know where she is for a second, and she turns around straight into a roll-up from Bayley. 1, 2, 3. And Bayley retains her title. But will Sasha do the same later on? We'll find out soon. And then to celebrate and to wear Asuka down further, Sasha and Bayley slam her down and do a little bit of just a mini beatdown, quite a polite beatdown really, not as extensive as it maybe could have been. Next up, we get the Raw Tag Team Championship match between the Street Profits, Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins, and the challengers, Andrade and Angel Garza, accompanied, of course, by Zelina Vega. The heels have fancy entrance attire, which looks very, very good, but the Street Profits one-up them with a special entrance. It's like WrestleMania. It's not, though. It's summer. It's the biggest bloody party of the summer, as lots of red cups drop from the ceiling. I think that's an advantage of not having fans in attendance, because they do seem to drop in quite a large number and with quite a reckless abandon. The Street Profits come out hot, as Asuka did as well. Lots of babyface fire at SummerSlam this year, and they run wild for a little bit. Then the heels have to kind of work their way back into the match, but they weren't counting on the MVP of the Street Profits team. I'm talking, of course, about Angelo Dawkins. And he just really gets going. He's doing his spear, he's doing his weird, his weird 360 super necessary spin into the clothesline or the stinger splash in the corner, and generally it's looking good for the champions. But the heels almost pick up a dirty rope assisted leverage pinfall, with I think the illegal man even holding onto the legs from the outside for extra leverage, but the referee spots it and puts a stop to that. He did see it coming. We get another knocked off the apron spot for the second match in a row, as Zelina Vega gets up there to try and cause a distraction, but gets knocked to the outside. Andrade goes to check on her, and checks on her for ages and ages and ages, as back in the ring, Angel Garza goes for his finisher, but Montez Ford floats over and suddenly it's 2-on-1 on Angel Garza. He falls victim to the Spinebuster and Montez Ford's incredible 180 twisting frog splash, and the champions retain their titles. The heels argue, but it's not long before we are straight on to the next match. It's not hair versus hair anymore. It's the loser leaves town match between arch rivals Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. And Owen, who is editing this video, points out that Sonya Deville's entrance gear makes her look a lot like Matt Hardy, and she's obviously quite broken as well, doing all the mannerisms, not quite saying delete, but grabbing at her hair and being generally a little bit twisted. There is intense trash talk from Sonya at the opening bell, and then she immediately, quite cleverly, goes for a roll-up when it looks like she's going to just try and deck Mandy. She just goes for a roll-up instead, but Mandy kicks out and she just clocks Sonya right in the jaw. They also start to make use of I forgot to mention, it was a no DQ stipulation as well as loser leaves town, loser leaves the company, whatever you want to call it. And Mandy takes full advantage of this. There's a suplex on the ramp, and she gets a table out from under the ring. Has quite a lot of difficulty setting it up, but Sonya just grabs a steel chair and drives it into her midsection. And I'm waiting and waiting for somebody to use the table. It's Chekhov's gun, isn't it? It's Chekhov's wrestling foreign object, where basically if an object gets brought out, it's probably going to be used. If there's a table, the table will surely be broken. And I'm waiting and waiting for it. They use the table in a couple of other ways, ramming it into each other. Or at one point, Mandy is like sat down behind the edge of the table at one end, and Sonya starts sliding chairs down it as if it was like a bar fight, but Mandy's ducking out the way as the chairs fly overhead. That was quite unique. But the table never ever gets broken, and it was quite frustrating. I think the ECW fan in me got very annoyed. Mandy then decides to channel the Young Bucks and just spams the same move again and again, not super kicks, but running knees. It's a bit of a running knee party in the ring, again and again, with a lot of intense pauses in between, and she nails a big final one, and that's enough for the win. Quite a finish out of the blue there. I didn't see... No. Not going to say it anymore. Weirdly, Sonya just kind of pops straight back up to her feet like Austin Aries in Impact or something, but she's not really no-selling. She's trying to sell the devastation of the stipulation. She's on the outside. She can't believe that she's lost and has to leave, but she doesn't hang around for long. She really honours the stipulation very well, just walking out through the stands. It's a bit of a serious moment as Mandy is in the ring, this huge victory. She's done it. She's finally got rid of her nemesis and she's beaten her. And then it gets totally undercut by Otis running to the ring with his briefcase and just starts, doing the caterpillar in the middle of the ring. Mandy then does the caterpillar. She's doing it wrong. She's going like head down first. You got to go feet first. I can't do the worm, despite what Adam Pacitti has tried to say for years and years now. That is just a vicious rumour, and I can't actually do one. But quite hilariously, it seems for just a split second, was I the only one who thought this? When Otis runs down with the briefcase and gets in the ring, it's almost like he's just going to go bam and just take Mandy out as if he thinks that she's a champion and he's trying to cash in. He didn't. He was just there to celebrate with her. Next up, we get the big one, the match we've all been waiting for. Seth Rollins versus Dominik Mysterio in a street fight. Backstage, Dominik is there with both of his parents and tells Ray, look, I don't want you to get involved. Ray does accompany Dom to ringside, but Dom's like, please do not get involved in the match. I have to do this on my own. It's a street fight. Get your dad involved if he wants. He's a future Hall of Famer. I mean, he could help you. I bet Murphy gets involved, Dominik. Come on now. Anyway, we get to the entrances and Rollins has come dressed as basically Halloween Havoc Rey Mysterio in the purple attire. It looks very good. He looks the business. But then Dominik comes out dressed as like 2010 AJ Styles with a blue hooded sleeveless ring vest, which he doesn't take off for quite a lot of the match, and the hood keeps on like flapping up during inopportune moments. I don't know, it was an odd decision. The match starts off as I think many of us would have predicted it starting off, like with Seth outclassing the non-wrestler or the very new wrestler Dominik, but then Dominik gradually working his way in with some Rey Mysterio-esque lucha moves with a Z on the end. And Seth is obviously a bit shocked, a bit taken aback. He mockingly applauds Dom, and it's all progressing nicely. Seth takes control for a bit. He's wanting Ray to get involved. He's taunting Ray from inside the ring, and Ray does want to get involved, but Dominik keeps waving him off. Then Dom starts taking control, and Seth is bumping all over the place for his young opponent. Then we get some kendo stick spots. Dom gets the kendo stick and starts just battering Seth with it, but Murphy slides in a kendo stick for Seth to use, and then he takes control. The welts on Seth's back, by the way, are nasty. They head up top. There's a table set up in the ring as well. It looks like Seth is gonna like back suplex Dominik through the table, but instead Dominik's got a kendo stick up top with with them and hits like a Sandman style Russian leg sweep through the table, and both men go through it. Dominik recovers first because he hit the move, I guess that makes sense, heads up top and hits a lovely frog splash, but it's only enough for a near fall. Murphy then hands Seth a pair of handcuffs. It looks like they're going to do some nasty stuff to Dominik. So his mother comes out and Ray runs to her and goes, I think basically, it's all in Spanish, but it's very obvious that Ray is pleading with her to go to the back. Meanwhile, in the ring, while this is all going on and everybody's distracted, Dom gets a near fall off a roll-up on Seth. So Murphy's like, right, that's enough of that. He grabs Dom, takes him to the outside, and he's going to jab his eye into the ring steps, the spot that really has been the foundation of this feud. Ray has had enough. He doesn't want to see his son meet the same fate as himself. He runs down there, he jumps on Murphy and Seth, but they beat him down 2-on-1, and then they handcuff Ray to the bottom rope. So he's stood outside the ring, but he's tied to the bottom rope. Seth then goes not to attack Ray. He thinks twice and thinks, no, I'm going to be even more evil than that. And he starts walking up the ramp towards Mrs. Mysterio. You can't be doing that, Seth. And Dominik, rightly, is livid and runs and jumps Seth and brings him back to the ring. Dom is fired up. He hits a 619 from the outside of the ring, sending Seth back in. Then in the ring, he hits a 619 to like a normal 619 to Seth. Heads up top. He's got all the momentum behind him. Frog splash. Seth gets the knees up. By this point, Ray has rolled into the ring. He's reaching out for Dominik. Seth drags Dominik over, just out of reach, like Randy Orton style, just out of reach of Ray, hits the stomp and wins the match. It's a big heel victory for Seth Rollins. Seth celebrates, he and Murphy leave, and then we get a nice moment with Ray telling Dominik that he's proud of him and that he did really well. And Dominik did do really well. He was good in there. He had a lot to live up to after Pat McAfee's excellent performance at TakeOver last night, but I think he still did himself proud. Next up, we get Asuka's second match, this time for the Raw Women's Championship against Sasha Banks, who, remember, has never successfully defended any of the titles she's won on the main roster. Asuka, you'll never bloody guess it, guys. Asuka comes out hot, full of babyface fire. She's going for it. Sasha tries to run away and head up the ramp, but Asuka catches her by the hair and drags her back to the ring like it's a house show in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Sorry, Green Bay. I don't know why I called you out there. But then Sasha turns the tide with one of the most impressive spots of the night and one of the most brutal looking spots of the night as well. With Asuka on the apron, Sasha comes in from the side, flips over and basically powerbombs her off the apron onto the floor hard. At this point I became distracted by my Twitter feed because it seems like on Twitch, Soulja Boy was playing Football Manager, and not just that, but he was playing Football Manager with my favourite Football Manager YouTuber and content creator, Dr. Benji FM. Check him out. It's one of those weird things. Whenever I've interacted with somebody from a different YouTube channel online, such as Dr. Benji, I do often get replies saying like, this is like worlds colliding for me because I'm a fan of both channels. That's what it was like for me. I'm a fan of Dr. Benji, and of course I'm a fan of Soulja Boy. Who doesn't love Crank That and Kiss Me Through the Phone to a lesser degree? So I just thought, it was weird. Soulja Boy was playing Football Manager on Twitch. Anyway, back to the action after that little interlude. So Asuka avoids a frog splash attempt from Sasha, and Sasha's confidence is really rocked. She crawls over to Bayley on the outside, and Bayley gives her a pep talk saying, you're great, you're the greatest of all time, you're better than her, she'll never be as good as you. And she's weak, her leg is weak, she can't keep this up, she's already wrestled one match, and Sasha's like, okay, I can do this. She can't do it. They charge at each other. Asuka gets the Asuka lock. Sasha reverses to the bank statement, but Asuka reverses that and gets the Asuka lock once again locked back in. But Sasha fights out, and once again we get like a mirror image of the spot in the first match against Bayley. This time Bayley is on the apron. Asuka charges, Sasha moves, and Bayley doesn't take the bullet. She also moves, and Asuka lands nicely, just sat on the middle rope like that. Asuka knocks Bayley off the apron, gets back in the ring, but Sasha's there behind her with a bank statement attempt. But Asuka rolls through into another Asuka lock, and this time there's nowhere for Sasha to go, and she taps out, and Asuka is once again the Raw Women's Champion. Commentary really play this up as it being Bayley's fault. In the first match, Sasha took the bullet for Bayley, and it led to Bayley getting the roll-up and the win. In this match, they're saying Bayley didn't take the bullet, and it led basically to Asuka winning and Sasha losing her title. I understand the reason for them doing this because they want tension between the pair of them before eventually they hopefully feud, but I do have a bit of a problem with it. My problem is that it wasn't really obvious that it was Bayley's fault, I don't think. I think Bayley should have tried to distract Asuka, maybe accidentally clocked Sasha with like the title or something, but no, they went a far more subtle route for some reason, when I think more obviousness was needed. I mean, you could say that, you know, Bayley in moving didn't exactly disadvantage Sasha at all. Asuka was still caught in the ropes, she had to get out and then turned her back to Sasha, and Sasha still managed to nearly get the bank statement locked in. It was just because Asuka's so good that she rolled through. So I don't really know what the story was meant to be here. Now on to the penultimate match of the night, the WWE Championship match between Drew McIntyre, the champion, and his challenger, young Randall Keith Orton. And during Orton's entrance, one touch that I really liked was how he was just glaring at the screens of the fans on the outside of the ring as if they were there in person. Oh, I should mention as well that at one point, I don't know if you saw this, but it was all over Twitter, one of the screens just had a sign saying Fire Velveteen Dream, and obviously once WWE realised, they got rid of that pretty fast. The guy who did it, I think, was on Twitter saying that he'd been banned. Yeah, it was controversial times. Anyway, of course, Randy Orton comes straight out the gate, RKO attempts, they're doing lucha rolls, they're flipping around like Ricochet. No, Orton starts very methodically, of course, and keeps rolling out the ring to gather himself and frustrate Drew. Then he nearly gets an RKO and Drew has to roll out the ring and looks very frustrated. Drew gets a cut at some point in these early stages, somewhere near his eye, he's bleeding a little bit. It's not terrible, but it adds a little bit to the fight. It felt like it was a real scrap between the two. But despite this, Drew powers through, he manages to take advantage for a little while and even gets a figure 4 leg lock locked in on Randy, obviously an homage to Ric Flair, who Randy attacked on a recent Monday Night Raw. It doesn't work. Randy almost taps, but he manages to get out of it by pulling the referee down so he can't see what he's about to do, and then just gouging the eyes of Drew. Randy headbutts Drew at one point and seems to be bleeding as well, but I can't tell if it's Drew's blood on him or a cut to Randy's forehead somewhere. I think it was a cut to Randy, but I'm not entirely certain. They trade off DDTs. Drew hits his Future Shock DDT with the big swinging leg coming through, but Randy manages to kick out at 2. A little later on, Randy hits his delayed rope assisted DDT, and Drew seems really out for the count. This move has really shaken him up. Randy measures Drew, he goes to that dark place and he measures Drew for the punt kick, but he takes too long setting it up. Maybe Drew was playing a little bit of possum, and he reverses that into a big power bomb. Drew then goes for the Claymore, but he takes too long to set it up, and Randy evades it. He just drops down onto his back. Drew sails overhead and crashes and burns, and when they rise to their feet, Randy goes for the RKO, but Drew has done his homework. What a good student, and backslides Randy. 1, 2, 3, and Drew wins off a backslide. And commentary are so quick to be like, we never saw it coming, Randy never saw it coming. And to be fair, I didn't see that coming either. I thought this would be a bit of a finisher fest, but they went totally the opposite direction with it. I don't think either guy hit an RKO or a Claymore for the entire, in fact, no, they didn't, for the entire match. Just before the main event, we learned that tomorrow night, Keith Lee, the now former NXT champion, will be appearing on Monday Night Raw. Is this his call-up? It certainly seems to be. And finally, the main event, which we learned on Talking Smack this week, is now a Falls Count Anywhere match between Braun Strowman and The Fiend. Now, I don't think that stipulation added a lot to this match, so I'm not entirely sure what it was for, but, you know, it's a little fun stip sometimes, isn't it? And The Fiend comes out like Asuka and like the Street Profits and like Asuka again and like Mandy. He comes out all on fire like a proper babyface. He just takes it to Braun. He's hitting move after move. He's doing that weird neck twist thing. He gets him on the outside and just hits him with a toolbox from under the ring, and it's all one-way traffic. But Braun fights back. There's a bit of ramming into the announce tables. Braun gets The Fiend back in the ring, hits the running power slam, but it's only good enough for 2. They fight up the ramp, they brawl all the way to Gorilla, which is deserted, no Shane, no Vince, great to see, social distancing and all the rest of it. And they start hitting moves on each other in Gorilla. It's like hitting your move on the announce table, it gives it extra damage, doesn't it? There's a Sister Abigail in Gorilla, which only gets a 2 count. They head back to the ring, Braun hits another running power slam, and again, it's only good for 2. Braun goes to the toolbox and gets some pliers or a wrench or something and uses it to cut away at the canvas in the ring, exposing the boards underneath. But in doing so, he takes his eye off his opponent and The Fiend springs back up to his feet. Braun is like, why don't you stay down? And gets immediately urinagied onto the boards. Then a Sister Abigail onto the boards, and then a second Sister Abigail onto the boards, and that's enough for 3. Quite an abrupt ending. And Bray Wyatt / The Fiend is now once again the Universal Champion. It's like Goldberg never happened. And The Fiend is celebrating in the ring with the belt while Braun is just devastated on the outside. And I'm thinking, yeah, this is a bit of an abrupt ending, isn't it? You expect something a bit bigger, a bit more monumental. from a Big Four pay-per-view. And I'm thinking maybe the lights are going to go out, maybe Retribution are going to all run in. Someone does run in, but it's not a member of Retribution, and spears the Fiend in half. And Owen, once again editing this video, thought it was Damian Priest. It wasn't, it was the biggest of dogs, Roman Reigns, making his return. And rather than being like super cool, nothing bothers me, Roman Reigns, he's acting a little bit less like Kevin Nash and a little bit more like Jon Moxley, or dare I say it, maybe even a little bit Stone Cold Steve Austin? Because Roman is taking no prisoners here. He spears the Fiend, he heads outside the ring, spears Strowman, gets a chair, and just lays it into Strowman again and again and again. This attack on Strowman actually was quite vicious, and it makes me feel like Roman's first going to get a match with Strowman before a match with the Fiend, but I'm not quite certain. After all, the next pay-per-view is only a week away. Roman gets back in the ring and gives one more climactic spear to the Fiend, and his shirt reads, "Wreck everyone and leave." And he does. Well, I assume he does. I think the show goes off the air with Roman kind of standing tall. But he's probably not still there now. He probably did follow the instructions and eventually get out of there. So that's it for SummerSlam. A big ending there and some big matches as well. I think this was a pretty decent show. There was some good action, not a lot of weak stuff really. And I think generally one of the better lockdown pay-per-views really. I think it's probably fair to say that. But what do you think? Let me know in that comment section down below. And of course, thank you very much for watching this video. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com. Yes, leave your thoughts and opinions and your comments down there. And stay safe out there, stay positive, and I'll see you very soon.